Hey, hi guys. Okay, so hi everyone. So this is Sai Kiran from LetsUpgrade, and I hope that I am audible to every one of you right now. So please tell me right now in the chat. I want to know from every one of you, like which all locations, which all cities, from where you guys are joining, and I'm reading your all comments in the chat. Okay, so hello everyone. So can you guys hear me right now, all loud and clear? I am D Solomon. Okay, and hi Solomon. So how are you? From where are you? Okay, so now next, yeah, anyone from VIT? I have been once to VIT for a project competition, so I can tell a little bit. One person from VIT, like that's what I can answer. Okay, Hyderabad, I can see Warangal, Bhubaneswar, Delhi, Bangalore. Your voice is not clear. Is my voice not clear? My voice is clear. Yes or no, guys? Is it audible? Completely. Thanks a lot, man. Thank you for that confirmation. Okay, and now, yeah. So that's where I'm D. Solomon from Hyderabad. Hi, Solomon. This is Mohan Sai from Andhra Pradesh. Okay, hi, Mohan. And now we see numbers are growing. Okay. So now let's go ahead. I think, is there any kind of echo or something? Uh, I think, yes, ma'am, please mute yourself, right? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I got it. It was a small glitch from our side. Okay, so guys, I'm from Mumbai and I'm Sai Kiran and one of the co-founders at LetsUpgrade. And like what we say, this whole thing we started 1 year back. I welcome every one of you here. Now, before going ahead with our major agenda today, that is learning DevOps from Vinolin ma'am. So who is Vinolin ma'am, how we met and from when she is with us. So if I have to give an introduction about Vinolin ma'am. So Vinolin ma'am, it's like now I think near about more than 1 year that we both are working together in LetsUpgrade in terms of upgrading so many millions of people. That's what, and she had students more than a lakh. She taught more than lakh students in 100,000 students in LetsUpgrade. That's what Vinodin ma'am is, and she's one of the senior people at LetsUpgrade with highest number of feedback, high quality feedback and all. So that's what Vinodin ma'am is. So say hi to Vinodin ma'am, everyone of you in the chat. Okay, so now, okay. So what is this DevOps whole program? Okay, so what is DevOps? Number one thing, DevOps. What is DevOps? Okay, so ma'am will tell you everything in detail, but let me just introduce you a slide to the topic. Okay, मैं तुम लोगों को थोड़ा सा introduce करता हूँ topic से. So DevOps is one of the concepts which has been rapidly grown up in the industry since last 4 years. Previous to that, it was like not that much into highlighted zone, but from last 4 years, from that time, technologies or the softwares and all started moving to cloud more and more. Now people started understanding continuous development and continuous deployment. Okay, so continuous integration, so CI/CD kind of models and all, where development is happening continuously, where integrations are happening continuously, and like like deployments are happening continuously. So to handle, to actually work with such model in real time in any MNC company for any product, the new role had come up, that is DevOps. Now India is seeing a huge job opening in the DevOps job market. That's what it is. And currently, if you see all the major companies from TCS to Infosys, like Zomato, Swiggy, every one of them have a very big DevOps team with them. And if you are someone, अगर आप ऐसे कोई हो जिसको DevOps, if you want to learn DevOps and if you are interested in how this developer operations in terms of deploying a particular application, how the load balances and everything work end to end, and how this continuous integration testing and deployment works, then you should be in this. I think it's a 2-day program, today and tomorrow. With lot much of knowledge from Vinoli ma'am directly. She's a corporate trainer. worked herself in a software domain, like for all the companies, Hexaware, Cognizant, and various other TCS. So these all companies she wears as a pride on her, like what is a brochure and all. So that's what Vinoleen ma'am is for you all guys, and she will be teaching amazing things to you. So I hope that everyone of you are very much excited to start this class. Just give me a high five in the chat. I want to know whosoever is interested to take it ahead with Vinoy ma'am in the DevOps class. I just want to know that in the chat, because I'm not seeing anything else. Now I can see a few questions coming in. Will we get certificate and all? 1,000% you will get certificate. Soft copy to no doubt. You just have to fill the attendance form after attending the class. So that's number one. And second thing is like every one of you will get a physical hard copy certificate. Okay, you will get a physical hard copy certificate. We are still in talks with few logistic people and all. It may take some time. I mean, like 30 days to 60 days kind of time to deliver hard copy certificates, but we will give you hard copy certificate for this session. We will send you what we say a proper email where you have to give your address and all. We will send you our certificate printed to your home. Just attend this session, go through all the to-do list, whatever ma'am mentions and the mod mentions here, and that's where it is. Thanks a lot, everyone of you, for so much of excitement. I think more than 250 people are there on Saturday. Thank you for spending time. Not only today, tomorrow who will be there, they will get hard copy certificates. Okay, so just make sure that every one of you are present today, tomorrow, and then we can take it. So over to you, Vinolian ma'am, and I will go backstage. Whole stages with you. And I think Paridhi is our today's mod. So Paridhi, over to you also. So take it ahead from here. Bye bye guys. Take care. Thanks a lot. Nice to meet you all. Guys, here's so much of energy from my side transferred to you all. And learn, and then build projects, grow in your career. That's what one thing I can share. Bye bye. Take care. Have a nice day. Over to you, Midodin ma'am.
Thank you very much, Sai. Yes. Hi, guys. I hope you're all excited. I can see all the messages here in the chat box. I'm sure you guys are excited to learn DevOps. So, yes. And yes, guys, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Vinolin Jeremiah. I'm an authorized Amazon instructor, and my certifications include AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate, Developer Associate, and also SysOps Admin Associate. And I deliver trainings for DevOps, cloud computing, and machine learning, data science using Python. So these are a few of the technologies that I handle. So I possess 7+ years of multinational, corporate, and technical training experience. And as I said, almost more than a year, I'm associated with LetsUpgrade for training all the young minds. So yes, guys. So that's a bit about me. So let's get started with our session, right? I hope you're all excited for the session. Yes. So let's start. I'm sharing my screen. Just give me a confirmation in the chat box that I'm visible, that my screen is visible. Yes, I guess my screen is visible now. So here, Yes, sorry for the interruption, guys. So, yes, so here we are for DevOps Essentials. So, let's understand what DevOps is all about. Okay, so here the agenda for the 2 days training is going to be we'll start off by understanding DevOps. We will be discussing about the DevOps life cycle. We will also understand about the distributed version control system. Okay, and then we will work with Git. I'll take you through the steps that you have to follow if you have to start working with Git and GitHub. We'll also work with, I'll tell you how you can, manage a configuration management system using Ansible Jenkins. We'll also discuss about CI/CD pipeline in today's session. So this is the agenda for today. And tomorrow, we would be discussing about Docker. We would discuss explicitly about the different Docker commands that you would be able to use in a containerized environment. We'll also discuss about the Docker Compose and also about the Docker Swarm, the Docker images, the registry, and also we'll have a short introduction to Kubernetes. Okay, so this is the agenda for this 2 days program on Docker Essentials. I hope you guys are clear with the agenda. Okay, so let's move forward and understand what exactly is DevOps. So, DevOps is basically an enterprise software development phrase used to mean a type of agile relationship between development and IT operations. And the goal of DevOps is to change and improve the relationship by advocating better communication and collaboration between these two business units. So basically, what happens in your current environment, in a corporate organization, what happens is, let's say you have a product that you are asking your an organization or a corporate organization to build it for you. Okay, so you pass your requirement to the operations team, right? So the client will be delivering, or they will have a discussion with the operations team, and the operations team communicate the requirements to the dev team, right? So this is how it goes. Now, the developers, once they get once they get this idea about what has to be, what is the basic product that is required, they start developing the product. Okay, once the product it is going to be completely based on a particular specification. So you start developing the product, and the developers deliver the product. So once they deliver the product goes into deployment at the client site. Okay, but then let's say there is some kind of platform incompatibility and the product is not working as expected. So now, where is the problem? Okay, so there is some kind of miscommunication. Okay, there is some improper collaboration that has led to this confusion. Okay, so the client has given you the requirements, the dev team, they have worked on these requirements, and they have built a final product. At the end of the day, they are not able to successfully deploy at the client side. So there is a miscommunication that has happened. Okay, and when when we think about how we're going to be overcoming this improper communication, and that's where we have the DevOps strategy. Okay, so DevOps is going to be it's basically a buzzword now. So every organization is adopting DevOps practices. Okay, for your organizational growth. Okay, for your projects. Okay, so when we are using the DevOps concepts, you are going to be establishing a proper collaboration between the dev team and the operations team, the development team and the operations team. So that's how it is. Okay, so it's all about having tools and techniques that is going to be making your life easy, making your software delivery at a much faster pace. Okay, we would be discussing in depth about the different concepts like continuous integration, deployment, development, and continuous testing as well towards the end of today's session. Okay, so we'll understand what these are, but then for now, just understand DevOps is all about establishing a proper collaboration between the dev team and the operations team, and basically establishing a very smooth communication between the different departments in your organization. Okay, so that's about DevOps. So this is basically the life cycle of DevOps. I think this is hindering. So yes, so this is the life cycle of DevOps. We have the build, okay, code, build, test, release, and deploy, operate, and then you monitor. So you start with planning. Planning would be the first stage. Okay, so you plan your product, and then you so this is going to be your first stage where you plan. Then you start with coding, and then you start with building. Okay, so here then you move, once your product is ready, you move in for testing your product, and once your product is ready, you go in for releasing the product. Okay, and thereafter once you release, so it's going to be deployed at the client site. Once you deploy, then it goes after into an operating stage. Okay, once it is operating, you are continuously monitoring the operations of the product that you have delivered. And here is a consolidated set of tools which are used in different stages of the DevOps lifecycle. So how do we start? We start with plan, code, build, test, release, deploy, operate, and monitor. Okay, that is how it goes. Okay, so here when we come into the code phase, okay, for the code phase, we have Git, Jira, Eclipse. All these are the different tools that we use for at the stage of code where we need a version control system. We will be discussing about what is a version control system and why do you need it. Okay, so these are the tools that are used at the code stage. Then we have the build stage. Okay, here we have the Apache Ant, Gradle, and Maven. These are the three tools which falls under the category of build. Okay, and then we have the test. Okay, so we have Selenium, JUnit. Okay, so these are basically the elements that you use for testing. Okay, the tools that are used for testing. Okay, so here and also for the release, we have Jenkins and Bamboo. Okay, so these are the tools that we use for the stage of release. And then at the deployment phase, we have Chef, Puppet, SaltStack, on Ansible. So we'll be discussing about Ansible in today's session. Okay, so these are the different deployment tools. And then operate, and then at the stage of monitoring, you are going to be completely monitoring all the application. You'll be monitoring the application that you have deployed. Okay, so this is going to be the NagOS, the Sensu, the Splunk, New Relic. So these are the different tools that come under the category of the monitor stage. Okay, I hope everybody is clear with the DevOps life cycle. Okay, so here, now let's understand what is the operational challenge that organizations face. Okay, so there would be challenges. I have given you a brief idea about one of the challenge, like there was a miscommunication that happened between the dev team and the operations team. Okay, when the communication has been given, when the document or some kind of discussion that happened with the client was not communicated properly to the dev team, and that's what caused all the problem in fixing your application the right way. Okay, so here we have this. These are basically a few of the challenges that happen in real time. The first one is environment provisioning. Excuse me. Okay, so when we say environment provisioning, it is going to be managing the basic environment. Okay, and then manually, if you're testing some kind of application, let's say you are deploying an application and you start testing your application. So if you're going to be doing it manually, any kind of manual process might have some interpretation errors, right? Human workforce. So they might be, you might not have consistency in the evaluation that you are making. Okay, so and also it's not a repeatable procedure, right? You need a lot of time and workforce to be invested when you are using a manual testing, and also managing the test data. Okay, managing the test data manually, again, it's going to be a big challenge. And when we think about the deployment, how we are going to be deploying it manually, again, that is going to be another a big concept of discussion, right? So these are challenges like how you're going to be collaborating across different IT disciplines, collaboration between the business and the IT. Okay, all these are the challenges that is being faced in real time when we talk about the development environment. Okay, so here, when you are going to be, we would be discussing about all the tools and techniques that is going to be helping us automate all these processes. Okay, so be it environment provisioning, be it manual testing or any kind of testing, managing your test data, managing your deployment, managing the communication across different IT departments, and also establishing a collaboration between business and IT. So all these are going to be managed automatically. Okay, and we would discuss about all the tools that we can use for this purpose of managing things automatically. Okay, yes. So the first one on the line, we have Git. Git is a free, open source, distributed version control system tool, which is designed to handle everything from small. I'm just quickly checking on your chat box, guys, just to check if there are any questions. Don't send any questions right now. Okay, so when the session is going on, just listen to me and I'll give you time for the questions. At that time, you can put down your questions in the chat box. Okay, so yes, let's get back to what we were discussing. So Git is a free open source distributed version control system tool, which is designed to handle everything from small to very large projects with speed and efficiency. And it was created by Linus Torvalds in 2005 to develop the Linux kernel. Okay, and basically we have two different types of version control system. One is the centralized version control system, and the other is the distributed version control system. In case of a centralized version control system, so before we move into a version control system, let's understand what is a version control system. Now, today, I have a particular version of my code. Okay, so this particular version, maybe on this particular version, I want to make some kind of update. It could be a small, a minor change, or it could be a major code change that I'm making to the source code, whatever it is. Okay, so it is going to be a different version of the existing code. Now, how do I manage the different versions of the source code that I'm making? Okay, that is a point of concern. Okay, so here we need a version control system which can automatically manage these versions. Okay, when I say manage these versions, what is it going to manage? Okay, be it naming or documentation for the version. Okay, if you have an existing version, what was the improvisation that has been made in this version? Okay, so these are the different things that are considered when we are going to be talking about the version control system. Okay, so when we now, let's say there is version 1. Okay, so version 1, it is going to be having an attribute A. Okay, and then version 2 has an attribute B added to it. And then version 3 has attribute C. Okay, so you need to name the version. Okay, so naming the version is a challenge. And then documentation. Okay, what is the specific change that you have made in each version? This is very important. Okay, and also establishing a proper collaboration between different versions, managing your versions, how you are going to be, whether you are going to be saving it as a small file, or where you're going to be saving it, and how you're going to be having access to these versions when you need it all these are taken care by your version control system, and this is done automatically. Okay, and we would be discussing about a version control system which will help you in this process. Okay, so now since we have understood what is a version control system, let's understand the different types of version control system. We have the centralized version control system and the distributed version control system. The centralized version control system uses a central server to store all files and enables team collaboration. It works on a single repository to which users can directly access a central server. Okay, so here in the diagram you can see there is a central repository. Okay, there is a central server repository, and all the working copies. These are, let's say you have 3 developers, for example, the one that is given here, the representation that is here. So let's say I have 3 developers. So 3 developers will have 3 different workstations or PCs. Okay, so they will have a working copy of their own. Okay, and they are going to be updating directly on the central version that is available on the server or the repository, the central repository. Okay, so this is the structure of a centralized version control system, where you have a central repository and all the activities are taking place directly on the central repository or on the data that is residing inside the central repository. Okay, so this is how it happens in a centralized version control system. Now, let's understand what is a distributed version control system. So here, these systems do not necessarily rely on a central server to store all the versions of a project file. In distributed version control system, every contributor has a local copy or a clone of the main repository, and everyone maintains a local repository of their own, which contains all the files and metadata present in the main repository. Okay, so here, here's the representation of a distributed version control system. Okay, so here you have your remote repository. Okay, like GitHub. I guess you guys have used GitHub. If not, I'll tell you how you can create your own account in GitHub. Okay, so here you can create your own account on GitHub. Okay, and this is going to be serving as your remote repository. What is a remote repository? It is available in a remote location. It is basically a repository which is not in a physical place, or you don't have it in your physical server. Okay, it's there in a remote location. That's your remote repository, like GitHub, okay, or Apache Subversion. Okay, so these are the distributed version control systems. So here, here we have this. This one is going to be your local repository. Okay, this is your local repository. So here you have your remote repository, and you will have multiple local repositories. Okay, so if you're going to be having multiple workstations, then each workstation will have a local repository of its own. Okay, so here and inside the local repository, you will have a working copy inside the workstation. Okay, so when I want to, let's say I have a working copy, I'm making some change into my existing file. I want to, push the change into the remote repository. So the developers will be directly working on the working copy, right? They will be directly working on the working copy. And then these changes have to be committed to the local repository. Okay, and here, this is basically the command. I would give you all the commands that you can use when you want to configure and start using it. Okay, don't worry about that. And here, just understand that commit is basically what we're doing. If you have to move the file from the working copy, that's your workstation, into a local repository. And then when we push, okay, when we push the data it goes into the remote repository. Okay, and on the reverse order, if you need to be pulling your data, if you need to be getting your data into your local repository, or like in the reverse order, let's say I have some data inside GitHub, okay, and then I'm trying to pull the data into um, my local repository. I'm going to be using my your pull command, and then when I want the data to come from my local repository into my working copy, then I use an update command. So this is basically how the structure works. So here I'm going to be committing it, and from here it is a push, and from the remote repository it's a pull to the local repository, and then I give an update, which is going to be my working copy. Okay, which is going to be updating my working copy. So this is how basically your distributed version control system works. Now, so here are the different operations and commands that are available. Okay, so here we have initialize. We have the command like git init. Okay, check it. So here we have the git init, and then here we have add, which is this is going to be initializing an empty repository. Okay, and then git add is going to be adding the files. Let's say I have a few files in the staging area. I'm going to be adding the content into my local repository. Okay, in that case, I'm going to be using git add command. And then we have this git commit. So git commit is the command that you can use when you want to save the changes. So this is basically like saving the changes to the local repository. Okay, and then pull, it is going to be pulling the content from remote. Okay, and then push will push to the remote repository. Okay, so these are the different commands and their functions. So here, let me show you, in case if you have not installed Git, Git should be available directly for a download, guys. So just give Git download, whether you are using a Windows PC. Okay, Git download for Windows. Okay, just give that, and you should be able to find Git. Okay, so you can download it for Windows or Linux or Mac OS, whatever your platform is. Just make sure you're downloading this setup file. Okay, and you can give all the default values, and you should be able to set up Git. Okay, so make sure you first install Git. I already have Git installed in my PC. Okay, so here inside this folder, okay, inside my C drive, I'm going to be creating a new folder. Okay, let's say it's LetsUpgrade repository. Okay, I'm creating a folder called LetsUpgrade. And here, after installation of Git, okay, so I have already installed Git in my machine. So I just have to create a folder and then go in and git bash here. Okay, so I have, this is basically my Git repository. Okay, so here there's another thing that you guys have to do. Make sure you have your GitHub account as well. Okay, so this is basically my repository, which is already logged in. Okay, so you guys can create an account with GitHub. So I'll give you the task that you have to do today as well, the assignments for today. Installation of Git, and then you will have to execute few commands that I'm giving you, and then you will be adding the screenshots, and also you will have to create your GitHub account and then do the tasks that are being given for this particular assignment as well. So here, this is the GitHub account that belongs to me. So here, this is the username. You can find your profile here. Your repositories will have all the repositories that you have created. Okay, and these are the code spaces, your projects. Okay, so now we are going to be creating a new repository. Do you remember this slide where we discussed about the repositories? Okay, so now we have to create a remote repository, okay, which is going to be our GitHub. And then we need to set up our local repository, which is going to be Git. So this has to be set up, this has to be set up. Okay, and this is where you are, you have your laptop. Okay, your laptop is going to be your workstation. Okay, so now download and install Git on your system. Also make sure you have a GitHub account. Okay, and here in your GitHub account, let's create a new repository. I'm creating a repository called Let's Upgrade, or let's say Devops Essentials. Okay, it is Devops Essentials. So here in this, it's a public file. Okay, and then add a README file. Make sure you add this content here. Add a README file. Create repository. Okay, so my repository is ready now. And then here inside this, make sure inside the code, you can find this HTTPS link. Okay, so this HTTPS link, let's copy it. We would have to clone in to this repository. Okay, I'll tell you what clone is. Okay, so make sure you are having this in place. And how do you add a file, or when you want to create a new file? Okay, so you can upload files from your local desktop by using this tab which says upload files, or you can create a new file. Okay, so let's say I'm creating a new file. Okay, so here, let's say, okay, I'm creating a file called Let's Upgrade. Okay, okay, just go ahead and commit the change. Do you remember I told you commit is basically the command which is going to be saving the data to the repository. Okay, yes, now commit new file. Okay, now, so here I have two files. One is the README file. I have the Let's Upgrade file, and this is within my repository, which is called Devops Essentials. Okay. Okay. So this is the setup that you have to make. Then let's go back into our local repository now. So here inside the local repository, type git init. Okay. Git init. The command git init basically initializes an empty repository. Okay, so we have git init. I have given that. So now we have a empty repository, empty git repository. Now let's go into clone. We have to clone it. So how do we do that? Okay, first we have to configure. So git config hyphen hyphen global user dot name followed by the username. Okay, and then git config user dot email Okay, so we have to configure the username and the user email. Okay, now it is configured here. Okay, so these are the two commands. So here in the first command, I'm just mentioning or configuring the username for this repository, and then I'm initializing, I'm establishing a connectivity between my remote repository and my local repository here. So this is my user email that is associated with the GitHub account. Okay, so these are the two commands. Now, the next one is git clone. Do you remember I told you to copy the URL? Okay, so here let's go ahead and copy the URL. Okay, copy the URL, come back here and paste it. It takes a couple of minutes to get updated. Can you see that? It is cloning into Devops Essentials. Okay, meanwhile this happens, let's move into our discussion. So here we are done with launching our Git bash, and then we have already downloaded, only after downloading and installing your Git, you will be able to launch your Git bash. We have initialized a empty Git repository using Git init, and then we can add or create and add files, okay, using the Git Add command. Okay, that's what I've shown you. So add command basically updates the index using the current content found in the working tree, and then it prepares the content in the staging area for the next commit. And if you want to add files, then you have to get git add. You would be able to, if you give a -a flag, it is going to be adding all the files, even if you give git add dot. Okay, so this is basically, if you give that, if you have 10 files waiting to be committed, then all the 10 files will be directly added into the staging area. I'm quickly checking the chat box, guys. Do you guys have any questions till here? Okay, I guess not. Okay, fine. Now, git commit, as I told you, this will commit the staged snapshot and will be launching a text editor prompting you for a commit message, or you can use git commit -m followed by the message. So this is basically the method or the command that you use when you want to commit a message into your local repository. And push is basically the command that transfers commits from your local repository to your remote repository. Okay, so here we would not be working with push, but then I'll show you how this clone works. It is taking a bit of time. Our clone is not ready yet. It generally doesn't take this much time, probably. Okay, let's move ahead with the discussion. Let's not wait for this. Once this becomes available, I'll show you how things are getting done here inside your Git repository. Okay. Yes. So here, that's about Git, which is basically the version control system. Okay, so here now we're moving into configuration management. Okay, configuration management using Ansible. Now, what is Ansible? So Ansible is basically a product of Red Hat. It is a configuration management tool, which is basically used for service deployment. It's an open source solution for software provisioning, application deployment, as well as configuration management. And you will be able to automate multiple IT processes by using Ansible. Its design is for multi-tier deployment, so it can handle your different systems together. And Ansible is easy to deploy because it doesn't use any additional security infrastructure or agents. Because in certain other your configuration management system, we might have to have agents. So here Ansible is comparatively easy, and you can use it through YAML, which is relatively easy to use language, as much of its syntax is in English. So performing the task becomes completely simple. So here, maybe just consider your production environment. Okay, so there you want to manage all your servers by being in a single place, and that is possible using Ansible, which is basically going to be helping you with your configuration management or your application deployment, or it could be a simple software provisioning as well. So whatever it is, you would be able to accomplish such tasks using Ansible tool. So here's a quick a set of difference between Ansible and Jenkins. Okay, we would be discussing explicitly about Jenkins. So at this point, just to clarify the doubt that always arises between what is the difference between Ansible and Jenkins. So Ansible installation and configuration is comparatively difficult than Jenkins. Okay, Jenkins is pretty much straightforward. But then in Ansible, you have to configure the entire setup and management. Okay, so it's kind of little complicated or little difficult. Okay, and it does support, Ansible does support a lot of plugins, but then comparatively lesser in number than your Jenkins. Okay, but then Jenkins, it provides you with numerous plugins. Whatever, let's say I want to use Docker with Jenkins, you have so many plugins available. You want to use a new platform with Jenkins, yes, you have whatever you want, whatever, maybe any kind of build tool or any kind of monitoring tool, any kind of testing tool, any kind of version control tool that you want to incorporate into your project, you will be able to find a plugin for that particular tool on Jenkins platform. Okay, it supports numerous plugins, which makes things very easy for you to use the Jenkins platform. And Ansible supports multiple platforms, including Windows, Linux, etc. However, it is a little challenging to use on Windows. But then Jenkins supports multiple platforms and works consistently on all of these platforms. So this is comparatively easy to set up and configure your Ansible, but then managing the initial setup, little challenging. Okay, little time consuming maybe. And Ansible is a cloud-based tool, and your Jenkins is a server-based tool. Okay, and then in Ansible, in case of Ansible, you are going to be using YAML, which is going to be a very easy language. Okay, and whereas Jenkins is completely written in Java. Okay, and then Ansible is a lightweight tool, and here this is definitely not a lightweight solution. Okay, so these are a few of the differences that you should be knowing about Ansible and Jenkins. Okay, now, so that's a quick understanding about configuration management using Ansible and what exactly is the difference between Ansible and Jenkins, right? Now, let's understand what is Jenkins. Jenkins is an open source tool in Java for automation and continuous integration tasks. And Jenkins allows users to create and test their projects continuously while integrating changes quickly. Okay, so in today's corporate world, everybody or every organization, they want to get their products, develop their products at a faster pace, deliver the products at a very faster pace, and that's how the organizations are moving forward. Okay, so when you want things to happen quickly, okay, and Jenkins provides you with a platform where you would be able to achieve these targets. Okay, so you would be able to create your projects, you will be able to continuously test your project, and you would be able to continuously deploy your project using the CI/CD pipeline on Jenkins. We would be discussing about CI/CD pipeline as well in today's session. Okay, so one of the biggest highlight of Jenkins is its large number of plugins. So as I told you earlier, whatever tool you want to integrate on Jenkins, you would be able to find a plugin for that tool. Okay, be it a version control system, be it a deployment management, be it a monitoring, be it a testing, whatever the purpose is, you would be able to find a supported plugin on Jenkins platform. Okay, and plugins allow Jenkins to integrate with other software solutions, and it enhances its capabilities in multitudes. And Jenkins can integrate the entire development lifecycle process of an application. This means it can handle creation, testing, packaging, deployment, analysis, and other operations. So, do you remember the DevOps lifecycle that we discussed earlier towards the beginning of the session? Right? So, here we start with plan, code, build, and the entire DevOps lifecycle. So, everything you would be able to integrate into the Jenkins platform, right? So, that's how Jenkins can be used to automate your organizational tasks. Now, here's a quick, a short difference. We have already discussed about the differences, but then, so Ansible is excellent for automating IT tasks, while Jenkins has various plugins to make it highly versatile. And if your project has multiple scripts that work great together, then you should be using Jenkins. On the other hand, if your project is more complicated, you'd need Ansible with an Ansible tower. So Ansible tower is a discussion for another session. Okay, so just understand that you're going to be analyzing what your project requirement is, and based on your project requirement, you are going to be choosing Ansible for your configuration management, or you're going to be using the Jenkins platform for the entire software development lifecycle. Okay, yes. So this is basically what Jenkins does. Okay, so here you have the developer. The developers will be developing the code. Okay, and then the developers, once the code is ready, the code gets committed into the remote repository. Okay, this is the remote repository. Okay, this is going to be your GitHub, and then your Jenkins is going to be pulling the code or getting the code from the remote repository, that is GitHub. Okay, and then it starts building. Okay, so build is going to be triggered automatically on the Jenkins platform. And then if there is a failure, in case the build has failed, then it is going to be notified back into the developer, notified back to the development team. Okay, so this is basically what happens in your Jenkins environment. Okay, so the developer will develop the code, commit the code into the remote repository. The code is pulled from the remote repository into the Jenkins for a build activity. And if there is a failure, we have tools and methods which is going to be triggering or notifying the developers that there is a problem with the build. Okay, yes. Now, what are the advantages of Jenkins? So the basic advantages of Jenkins include providing you definitely with a large number of plugin support, right? And then iterative improvement to the code, Okay, so you have one phase of the code, and then you are trying to add a new improvisation into the code. So that is also possible when you are using Jenkins. So you're going to be integrating it with a version control system like Git. So automatically the new versions that you are adding, it is going to be managed or pulled into Jenkins. Okay, so iterative improvement to the code, and it also supports bug trackings. So it is going to be made easy at early stage in the development environment. And then build failures are cached at the integration stage. For each code commit changes, an automatic build report notification gets generated. And when you want to notify the developers about the build report success or failure, it is integrated with the LDAP mail server, and it achieves continuous integration, agile development, and test driven development. Okay, so all these are the features of Jenkins. Okay, any questions, guys? Let me quickly check the chat box, guys. Okay. Will this video be available again? Yes, this video will be available. You guys can, yes. Yes, guys, I'm getting lots of messages. Will this video be available? Yes, this video will be available. Agile, basically, more of a flexible, where you would be able to accommodate changes. That's the basic terminology that we use. Yes, and then yes, guys, about how to add a file, delete a file, that we would be covering in another session. Is there any other questions? Master and branch in Git. There's a question on master and branch in Git. Let me quickly explain what this is all about. So here, so who's asked this? Sankalp Dwivedi. So here, so what is this master branch? So by default, the data that you are committing will be getting stored in master branch. Okay, so if you are not specifically mentioning the branches, so basically we have the master branch. So branch is, first of all, it is going to be giving you an isolated workspace. Okay, so this is basically providing you with an isolated workspace. Okay, so here, let's say you have three different developers. Okay, three developers or 10 developers working on a project. You want to give each of the developers a isolated workspace, and that's where you go in for creating multiple branches. Okay, so the command for creating a branch is git branch name. Okay, and then once you create this branch, let's say I'm creating a branch called git branch. Let's say I'm using my name. Okay, I'm creating a branch called Vinolin. Okay, so this will create a branch called Vinolin. Okay, now I want to move into the branch. We have a command called git checkout Vinolin. So this will take me into the branch. Okay, and then we do have git delete. Okay, git branch delete. It is going to be helping you with deleting your branch. Okay, so these are basically the commands that we use for branching and merging. So we just have to give git merge and then Vinolin. Okay, so merging is basically for adding, or you have multiple isolated workspaces, and then you want to merge the work that you have done in your branches into your main branch. That's your master branch. then you go in for merging the branches. So that's going to be the merge command. Okay, so that's about Git branching and merging. I hope that question was answered. Who was asked the question? Sankalp Trivedi. Okay, so that's about branching and merging. What is the need of making a clone? Devansh has asked a question. What is the need of making a clone? Basically, you want to have a copy. That is a basic difference between your centralized version control system and your distributed version control system. In case of your centralized version control system, what did you do? Here, in case of a centralized version control system, you had your central repository. Okay, you had a central repository and all the changes that you, or let's say you have 3 developers. Okay, all the 3 developers, the changes that they were making was directly reflecting or directly done on the central repository, the copy that is existing inside the central repository. Okay, here, this is your centralized version control system. Okay, centralized VCS. Now, your distributed version control system is one where you have a remote repository. Okay, and then you have multiple local repositories, and then you are going to be having a working copy. Okay, so basically you want the data from the remote repository to come into the local repository, and you want to have a copy of your own. And that is the reason you are cloning it. Okay, when you want to get the content into your working copy. Yes. So that's the answer for Mr. Devansh Niskal. Okay, so what is the need of making a clone? Yes. Yes, guys. I think I have caught up on all the questions. The questions regarding community group, we would be getting back to you on that. Okay. Yes. So you would have, yes, all the answers are already given from the team, from our team. Yes. Git stash, git fetch, it is out of the scope of this Devops Essentials program. We would definitely connect again for the commands with git stash and fetch. Okay. Yes. I have already, Vishwanath Dubey, I have already given you the difference between centralized version control system and the distributed version control system. Difference between clone and pull request. So pull is going to be, let's say, you have a single data or an update that you have. Who's asked this question? Okay, Kevin Nirmal. So yes. So difference between clone and pull request. You have the clone if you are getting the entire remote repository. Okay, so you're going to be when you want to clone the remote repository into your local repository, get a copy of your remote repository and the local repository, go in for clone. Let's say I have updated something into newly on my remote repository. In that case, I go in for using a pull request, where I would be able to pull the exact copy or the exact change that I have made or a file that I have added. I will be able to pull into my local repository. That is the purpose of using pull. Okay. Okay, guys. So yes, now let's understand about the CI/CD pipeline. Okay, so this is the continuous integration and continuous deployment or delivery pipeline. So here, these are the different stages. The first one is the version control, the build. Okay, we have unit test, deploy, order test, deploy to production, and thereafter you measure and validate it. Okay, so version control is going to be established using, let's say, Git, okay? And then build tool, we have discussed about Ant, Maven, or Gradle. Again, for testing like Selenium or JUnit. And then deployment, we have different tools. So you would be able to implement the entire, the what is that? The DevOps lifecycle. You would be able to implement on a Jenkins platform. Okay, so this is the CI/CD pipeline, which is basically your continuous integration, continuous deployment or delivery pipeline. Okay, so here these are the different stages. Let's consider, for example, you have a Java program. Okay, so what happens? You put your Java program inside the version control system. All the changes that you are making to the source code, it is going to be automatically managed using your version control system. Okay, that is automatically done using the version control system, which is Git. Now, you would have to first compile the program and then run the program. So this is going to be a single build. Okay, that is your build. And then you go in for testing it. That is a unit test. And then thereafter you go in for deploying. Once you have successfully tested unit test, we will be shortly discussing about what is unit test. Okay, so you are going to be testing the independent parts, the independent units. That is what we call unit test. Okay, so unit test, and then thereafter you go in for deploying the product. Okay, it is going to be in the test bed. Okay, and then you go in for order test. Then once you are confident, you go in for deploying it to the production environment. Thereafter, you go in for measuring and validating. Okay, you get a continuous production feedback as well. And this is basically how a CI/CD pipeline works. So these are the best practices of CI/CD. You should always write up the current development process. Therefore, you would be able to understand the procedures that require to change and one that can be easily automated. And always start off with a small proof of project before going ahead and completing the whole development process at once. Okay, always make it into smaller tasks and make sure you're documenting it. Okay, and then set up a pipeline with more than one stage in which the fast fundamental tests run first, and start each workflow for the same clean and isolated environment. Always run the open source tools that cover everything from code style to security scanning, and set up a better code hub to continuously check the quality of your code by running the standard set of tests against every branch. And pure code review each pull request to solve a problem in a collaborative manner. And you will always have to define success metrics before you start the transition to a CD automation. And this is going to be helping you consistently analyze your software developing progress, help refining where needed. Okay, so these are basically the CI/CD pipeline best practices. So that's about CI/CD pipeline. Now let's move into understanding the different types of testing. Okay, so here we have the unit testing. So it is the testing of an individual unit or group of related units. It is often done by the programmer to test that the unit, that particular developer has developed is producing the expected output against the given input. Okay, so this is what we call as unit testing. So you are going to be, let's say I have part one. Okay, I have a single integration that I'm making into the source code. So, and this provides me with a single unit. Okay, I take this unit for testing. Okay, so similarly, I would have multiple units that is going to be concurrently going in for testing. So that is unit testing. Then we have integration testing. So basically, we have the concept of continuous integration. What is this continuous integration? Any change that I make into the source code. Okay, source code is going to be my original skeleton, and then the change that I make into the source code, it is going to be an integration or a change that I add into the source code. Once I'm confident, once I run a test on this particular integration that I have made, that goes into a successful integration. Okay, and in case of an integration testing, This is the type of testing in which a group of components are combined to produce the output. Also, the interaction between software and hardware is tested if software and hardware components have any relation. And it may fall under both white box testing and black box testing. So it could be any of the type. And here we have the other types of testing. We have the functional or acceptance testing. This basically ensures that the specified functionality required in the system requirement is working. Okay, let's say the client has given you a requirement. It is going to be cross-verifying whether this functionality matches the requirement that is provided by the client. And this is basically done to make sure that the delivered product meets the requirements and works as the customer expected. Okay, then we have the system testing. This ensures that by putting the software in different environment, it is going to be still working. Okay, and then we have the stress testing, which evaluates how the system behaves under unfavorable conditions. The next one, we have beta testing. It is done by end users, a team outside the development, or publicly releasing full pre-version of the product, which is known as a beta version. The aim of beta testing is to cover unexpected errors. So these are basically the different types of testing that you have in an organization, in a corporate environment. Okay, so depending upon your use case, you would be taking up the different tests, and each of them, they have a specific set of requirements, and how they have a procedure for implementing these tests as well. Okay, now we let's understand what is continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. Before moving into this, let me quickly give you an insight about what you have to do for the assignment. Okay, so here you will have to create a GitHub account. Okay, so you just have to give GitHub Okay, so you can simply go into the page and you would be able to, can you see this join GitHub? Okay, you just click on join GitHub. It directly takes me into my repository because I'm already logged in. Okay, so when you are logging in, it is going to be different. Okay, make sure you just search for creating a new account, and you would be able to find that link which takes you into creating your account. You have to provide your username, your user email, and things like that, and then you would be able to create your GitHub account. Okay, so make sure you create your GitHub account. Then install Git, okay, in your PC. Okay, and make sure you are configuring the Git bash. Okay, so launch Git bash, and clone the remote repository. So this is a simple activity that we have taken for the essentials. Okay, so yes, launch Git bash and clone the remote repository to the local repository. Okay, and here, once you create your GitHub account, create a repository. Okay, create a repository and create files. Let's check if our repository is ready now. Can you see this? Earlier, this was getting cloned, and that's the reason we moved forward. So cloning into Devops Essentials, remote enumerating object 6 has been completed. So all the objects are up to date now. So how do I check whether the clone or the copy has been received? Okay, so here, do you remember the first step that we did was creating inside my C colon, the C drive, I have created a folder called Let's Upgrade. Now inside this, can you see this Devops Essentials? So this is the remote repository. So here I have created the Devops Essentials. And then what are the files inside this? I have a README file, and also there is a file called Let's Upgrade, right? So now, since we have cloned the remote repository, we have all the contents of the remote repository on the local repository. Okay, we have a working copy of the data. Okay, so this is the purpose, having a copy in your local machine. Okay, that is the purpose of using clone. Okay, I guess this is made clear now. Okay, so here the clone was successful. So what you can do is you will be able to you can give git init. The same thing, I want the screenshot. So basically here we would be requesting you to take screenshots of the entire task that you are doing, and then you will be putting it inside a Word file or a PDF file, and then you will have to upload it in the link that is provided. Okay, so here I would need a screenshot of all these commands where you are establishing a connectivity to your remote repository. You are configuring your username, configuring the user email, and then cloning from the remote repository. Okay, so this activity has to be completed. Okay, guys, so create a repository, create files, and then clone your repository. Okay, so this is the tasks to be completed. So this is assignment 1. There will be another assignment which we will be working on tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow we will be working on Docker. Okay, so for today, this is the only assignment. It's just working with Git and GitHub. Okay, guys, I guess this is made clear. Any questions on this, guys? Let's quickly go through the chat box if there are any questions. Great. Which tools are covered in the whole training? Ashish, we would be covering, today we will be covering Git Jenkins, and tomorrow we would be covering Docker. And yes, any other questions, guys? I'm quickly checking the chat box. If you have any questions, please put down your questions in the chat box, guys. So unit testing is only done by the developers. Guys, there are separate teams for doing each of the tasks. Okay, developers are responsible for developing the code. Okay, and yes. Kanaga Priyanka has asked a question. So to master DevOps, do we need to know all tools of all the? Not necessarily, Kanaga Priyanka. There are few important tools, or we would say, which are widely used. Like you need to have a very good understanding about Git. You need to have a very good understanding about Jenkins. If we talk about containerization, then you need to know Docker. Okay, and also if you talk about the testing, then you need to know about something about Selenium or JUnit. So just get yourself strong on these tools, whatever we are covering in Devops Essentials. And you should have a good understanding of all the other configuration management tools like Chef, Puppet, and Salt Stack. So these are the other configuration management tools that we have, which is basically taking care of your deployment process. So all these are going to be adding value to your DevOps knowledge. Yes, guys, I think all are caught up. How can you add your personal account in Git? Can you be more clear with this? I have added the personal account on Git. So that is the process that I have shown you now. So I'm not pretty sure about what you are trying to convey. So please be more clear with your question so that I can answer you. So that was from Sapna. Okay, how can you add your account? So I have shown you how you can add your personal account here. So here, So this is going to be, I have initialized empty Git repository, and then I have configured the username, configure the user email, and then, for example, just to show you how things are done, I have taken a clone of my remote repository. Okay. Link for all days agenda. Yes, guys, I've already clarified the agenda for these 2 days. Today we will be covering Git and Jenkins, and we would also discuss about the concepts of continuous integration, continuous deployment delivery. And tomorrow we would be discussing explicitly on the Docker. Okay, all things related with Docker and also about Kubernetes. Okay, for DevOps engineer, is there any need like strong programming knowledge? Not necessarily. It could be an added advantage, but then it has nothing to do with your DevOps environment. Okay, so Git is a version control tool. Likewise, Jenkins is going to be, a tool where you're going to be building, or you would be able to implement your CI/CD pipeline. So not necessarily that you should be a programming geek. Okay. Yes, Sapna, I have already answered your question. So that's what I said. I have already configured my personal account on my PC, okay, on the Git. This is basically the procedure. Why init is required? Because you want to initialize a Git repository. You want to initialize a remote, local repository on your machine. That is the reason you need a Git init. Okay. Vishwanath Dubey has asked a question, why init is required? So basically you want to initialize a empty Git repository. Okay, which tool is more suitable for beginners? Ansible or Jenkins? I would suggest Jenkins. Okay. Actually, I have already added Office ID. Okay. Anyways, like I can show you that, but then not in this session. Okay, so it's going to be a bit time consuming process. So we have a schedule. We would definitely do that in another video. Okay, Sapna. And deadline for this assignment, make sure you submit it by Wednesday. Okay, make sure you complete the task that is provided to you, and then you will have to put all the files inside into the link that is provided for the assignment submission, and the deadline would be Wednesday, 12 o'clock at night. Okay, and then Maven or Ant for build 2, entirely dependent upon your project, your use case, your requirement. Okay, so depending upon the use case, you can choose Ant, Maven, or Gradle for your build option. Freshers can apply for DevOps role, depends upon the knowledge, the depth of knowledge that you have, and you would be able to, you should be able to, prove your expertise that you can really work on the DevOps platform, and you definitely can apply for a DevOps role. Git is an open source tool. Surya Chandra has asked a question, is Git going to be getting charged? Not really. Git is an open source tool, so you don't get charged for the for using Git. So I can see that Paridhi has put in the links for the assignment submission in the chat box, guys. Make sure you use them. Okay. Expected package, it entirely, so there's a question. Vishwanath Dubey, what is the expected package in company if we are DevOps engineer? So you need to be, that's what, you need to prove your expertise as a DevOps engineer. And if you have a verifiable experience, and it's going to be, the package is going to be depending on that, right? So it's really a very fair package for DevOps engineers, guys. So definitely a good job role. Okay. Yes. Yes. So Vansh Sharma has already replied Vishwanath's question. So it's going to be depending on your skills, your proficiency, and how you are going to be presenting yourself for the job role. Okay, Basha has said that he has done the assignment. Very good. Good move. And yes. Okay. Where to check? Akshada has asked a question. Where to check? I lost the question, guys. Okay, Akshada has asked a question. After creating clone, where to check the cloned folder? So here, do you remember, guys? Inside the C colon, I have created a folder called Let's Upgrade. Okay, I have created a folder called Let's Upgrade inside C colon. So inside that folder, I have my cloned repository. So this is the remote repository that I have created. So if you remember, so here, this is my remote repository. Inside that, I have created a repository. This is my GitHub account, and this is my repository, Devops Essentials. Now, once I cloned my repository, it came into the folder that I have created here. So basically, inside Let's Upgrade. Okay, this is where I launched Git Bash, the place where you launched Git Bash. At that location, you will be able to find all your cloned files. Okay. No, we still have few more topics to be covered. I just wanted to give you all a quick glance about what has to be done for the assignment. Yes, guys. Now, continuous integration. So, continuous integration is a software development method, okay, where members of the team can integrate their work at least once a day. And in this method, every integration is checked by an automated build to search the error. And then we have the continuous delivery, which is basically a software engineering method in which a team develops software products in a short cycle. And it ensures that the software can be easily released at any time. And continuous deployment is a software engineering process in which the product functionalities are delivered using automatic deployment. And it helps testers to validate whether the code base changes are correct and it is stable or not. So these are the terms that you will have to remember, which is continuous integration, where you are continuously integrating software parts or bits and pieces of your code into the original source code. That's continuous integration. Continuously delivering values or continuously delivering, let's say, deliverables, a qualified deliverable at the end of each cycle. So that is going to be a continuous delivery, and then continuous deployment. So whatever you have delivered, you are going to be there and then and there deploying it. That is going to be continuous deployment. And this is the basic principle of your DevOps. Okay. So continuous integration, continuous delivery, and deployment. And here's a simple, a consolidated idea about how this works. So here we have the continuous integration where the developers are going to be putting, you have the source code repository, and then the code is going to be transferred into a build server, compile, code review, okay, and then unit test, integration test, and then package. So this is going to be one continuous integration. So this is going to be one integration. So this is continuously done for every change that you're making into the source code repository or the source code. Okay, this is continuous integration. Now, continuous delivery. Continuous delivery, it takes till the stage of user acceptance testing. Okay, it takes till here. So this is the continuous delivery, where you start with the source code repository, where you are integrating changes into the source code, and then you go in for building the the source code or the change that you have made. So that one complete build, and then you go in for the user acceptance testing. All these three stages together constitutes your continuous delivery. And once you get move into the production environment, that is continuous deployment. You deploy your final product at the production environment. That is continuous deployment. So this is the basic difference between, or the basic concepts of continuous integration, continuous delivery, and continuous deployment. So here are the advantages of continuous integration. It helps you build better quality software, and it enables you to conduct repeatable testing, and it allows software developers to work independently on features in parallel, and it can increase the visibility and enable greater communication. And CI process, that's continuous integration process, helps to scale up the headcount and delivery output of the engineering teams. And this helps you to develop a potentially shippable product for a fully automated build. And when you want to avoid last minute confusion at the release date, and timing automates the build, and it completely reduces the risks and makes the deployment process more predictable. And you would be able to see the integration process in real time, and you would be able to avoid the last minute hassle at the release dates. And you will also be able to provide shippable products on a regular basis, and it also supports code stability. Those are the advantages of continuous integration. Now, what are the advantages of continuous delivery? Here, you would be able to automate the software release process for making delivery more efficient, rapid, and secure. Your continuous delivery practice increase productivity by freeing developers from manual work and complex dependencies. It also helps you discover software bugs early in the delivery process, and continuous delivery helps your business team to deliver updates to clients immediately and frequently, and it ensures the software is always ready to go to production. And you can release the software more frequently, which helps you to get fast feedback from your client, and there is less pressure on decisions for small changes. These are the advantages of continuous delivery. And then moving into continuous deployment. Continuous deployment helps you automate the repetitive tasks. Continuous deployment, it makes your deployment flawless without compromising security. And you would be able to easily scale from a single software application to an enterprise IT portfolio. And you can ship cloud native as well as traditional applications. And it gives you a single view across all the environments and applications, and you will be able to connect your existing DevOps tools and scripts into a proper workflow. And continuous deployment enables you to increase your overall productivity, and you will be able to integrate the processes and teams with a unified pipeline. So those are the details that we have regarding the continuous integration, continuous deployment, and delivery pipeline. And yes, so now let's get back into the chat box. You have any question? Please put down your questions in the chat box, guys. Role DevOps engineer plays. So it is going to be depending. If you are, it depends on the tool that you're working with. Okay, so yes, can I get a job if I have good knowledge of Linux, AWS, and Docker? Obviously, if you are able to prove your expertise on Linux, AWS, and Docker, definitely you should be able to land on a job. That's blockchain. People also use Jenkins, Ansible. Okay. Okay, what are the basics for a DevOps engineer? So you need to have in-depth knowledge about all the tools and how things are happening inside a DevOps environment. Okay, guys, I think I've caught up all the questions. Yes, is there git config step is required? Obviously. you would have to, in case you want to add something into your remote repository, then or you want to clone it as well. You have a screenshot of git bash and file. What next we have to do? Can you please be clear in your question, Akshada? Screenshot of git bash. Okay, so here, these are the screenshots to be added, right? Your GitHub account with the repository that you have created and the files has to be reflecting. Also, the Git that you have installed, just include a screenshot of the a command page where you have configured your username and user email. Okay, and also the clone, the result of clone that has to be displayed. Please include these details inside your file. Submitting, I think the link for submission is already posted here. Paridhi has already posted the link for submission. So make sure you guys submit. Make sure you guys submit your attendance. Only when you fill up your attendance, you would be eligible for the certification. So make sure you fill up your attendance for today as well as for tomorrow. Okay, guys. So that's it from my end for today, guys. So let's meet again tomorrow. We would be discussing about Docker, explicitly about Docker commands and Docker Swarm, Docker Compose. So these are the topics that we are going to be discussing in tomorrow's session. Okay. If there are no questions, I'm just having a quick check if there are any questions at the moment. Okay, Jubin, you're not able to log into the community by using account created automatically. You should be able to log in, Jubin. Our team will get back to you with an answer for that question. Okay, so you should be able to log in using the mail ID that you have registered in the community. Thank you, guys. So, yes, great session. Yep, thank you. Yes, Sankalp has said that the links are already provided to you. Ansible Tower, as I said earlier, this is a discussion that will be for another session, okay, which is Ansible Tower. Yes, guys. Just give me 1 minute. Paridhi? Paridhi? Hello, Paridhi, are you there? Thank you, guys. See you all tomorrow.